Hello and welcome to another episode of Runners Only with Dom Harvey. That's me. Thank you very much to my friends at Triumph and Disaster for sponsoring this episode. Triumph and Disaster, fantastic men's skincare. You can buy it at farmers, buy it at department stores, buy it online, or if you're in Auckland, go to their flagship store in Ponsonby. I love these guys so much. I'm not just saying that because they sponsor the podcast. I've been a big fan of theirs for years, and that's how this collaboration came about. All right, big episode coming up, one for the running nerds. Laura Nagel. 5 years ago, she had a knee injury. A doctor told her that she may never run again. This year, she has dominated the track season in New Zealand. She's unbeaten. She's won the national titles for the 1,500 metres, 3,000 metres and 5,000 metres. And she's running times that she hasn't run for like the last 8 years. And it's an honour to have her on the show. Laura Nagel. Enjoy.
Hey, runners only, yeah, let's get it started. Hey, this is runners only with Dom Harvey. Fast paced, slow and steady, anywhere you coming. Just wanna connect for everyone who loves running. This is runners only, yeah, let's get it started. Hey, this is runners only with Dom Harvey. Fast paced, slow and steady, anywhere you coming. Just wanna connect for everyone who loves running. Hey, runners only with Dom Harvey.
Runners Only with Dom Harvey and Laura Nagel. Hello.
Hi.
First of all, what are you doing this year? Like, you're unbeaten. You've got to the end of the season. You've never been beaten.
Yeah.
What is so different in 2022?
I think for me this year, everything's just kind of come together. And yeah, I always keep saying, especially with the girls in our group, I'm like, I'm 30 years old. I'm old now. That I've kind of just like learnt a lot from in the past. And yeah, I think COVID has actually helped me. I know a lot of people COVID has been really, really tough for, but for me, I was able to get in a lot of really consistent training and able to rest. That's actually probably the key to what's changed me in the last year is I've actually learnt how to rest properly, which, yeah. So,
but it's like the form of your life. It's just been phenomenal. Like, did you have a feeling it was going to be a good season? Like, could you look at your training and go, okay, I'm hot shit at the moment.
I really wouldn't say that. But yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to be okay. I didn't really know either because obviously my best times were from 2014, 2015. So
that's a long time ago. That's 7 years ago. Is that when you were in the States?
Yeah, when I was in the States and I had a great setup there, absolutely loved it. There was always that fear I'd come home and wouldn't get back to my best, which basically happened for up until this year. So
why do you think that is? Is it because you just had like really good training partners in the States, people that kept you honest? Is that the...
Yeah, probably a few things. Like when I came back from the States, I went back to Hawke's Bay and then I was basically by myself. So I kind of kept that training going for like maybe 6 months and then I got injured. And then it was so hard to get back from being injured and then being by yourself, running with no one. And yeah, it was really mentally hard. And then obviously probably the first time I had to have a full-time job, although I was working when I was in the States too, but it was just... Yeah, it was really different and it was really hard.
Yeah, so at the time that we're recording this, it's like the week after the Night of Fives, which was a fantastic event that you organised, and then you went and smashed it and won the 5,000 metres, fastest time in 8 years.
Yeah, I was saying like right after Nationals, I was pretty cooked. I was really ready for a break, but I still wanted to do those last two races this season, ran another 1,500 PB, which I was really happy about. I probably wanted a bit quicker, but at the same time I knew I was literally on kind of dead legs. And then the same thing with Night of Fives. So I was pretty happy that Night of Fives went the way that it did. If I had to run maybe a couple of those Ks a wee bit quicker, I might have dipped under 16, but but that's okay.
Because for the distances that you're running, like 1,500, 3,000, 5,000 metres, should you be past your prime now? Like at 30? Do you know what I mean?
No.
Should you be eyeing up like half marathons or 10,000 metres now?
Yeah, so like no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like I mean, yes, I would like to do those, and I really want to smash all of my PBs there because they're still, for me, they're not where I want them to be. But I think, I mean, you're seeing so many women across the world now that are actually peaking in their late 30s. So like for me, I'm like I'm still fresh, I'm still young.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you've proven that this year. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I think as you kind of get to 30 and then onwards, priorities shift, but I also think you start to realise what actually works for you, and not what works for one person doesn't work for another. And I think that's kind of what I've found.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you in the Commonwealth Games? Are you in the Commonwealth Games? No.
No. So I'm a wee bit off standards.
Right.
I definitely, if I had maybe another year up my sleeve, I think I would be able to get there. But I've just kind of decided, like, this year I'm a wee bit too off for those things, and I need a few other things to go right. So I think this season's kind of been a really good builder for me, and I just feel like it's there. I just need a wee bit more time. Yeah, a bit more time.
Sharpen that knife.
Yeah, and also just like probably maybe throw myself into like an altitude environment at some point too, just to kind of all those little extra 1%ers, which are really hard to get right. So got to work out that plan soon to try and aim for Paris. But
When's that? 2024.
2024.
So a couple of years away.
Couple of years. So I think within 2 years I can kind of do that. And I think I'm also in like a place in my life where I'm like, all right, I feel like I can maybe give that a crack without feeling like I'm like letting my career completely go to crap. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
hard. It's so hard, isn't it, finding that balance? Because there's not a lot of money in running, is there?
No, definitely not. I mean, you don't become a runner to get rich. That's
Same as I've discovered with doing a podcast about running.
yeah. It's not easy. You definitely have to love it for what it is to keep being able to do it. Even like, especially in New Zealand, like prize money isn't exactly through the roof.
Yeah, what is it, like $1,000 here and there sort of thing?
Yeah, if you get lucky. Like I think there was one race I did, which I was really fortunate. Like I didn't think it would go that well. I broke the meet record, which had a really good bonus in there, but like so that was maybe just over $1,000. So like, yeah, that maybe pays for a pair of shoes or two, but that's about it.
It doesn't go far, does it?
No.
God, it's gas money.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to get to places and just different trips and stuff. When you think about like, if I do want to go overseas, like there's your flight gone right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Paris 2024, that's like the big long-term goal.
Yep.
What sort of events are you thinking for Paris? 3,000, 5,000, 15?
Yes, I would love 3K, but there's no 3K. There's only a steeplechase.
Oh,
and
all right.
Yeah, I would probably like break my ankle or screw my knee trying to do that one. I mean, I don't think the 1,500. I mean, I might be able to in the 1,500, but I think 5K is definitely my better shot.
Yeah.
I'm a wee bit off that, but I don't know. I have this belief in myself that I think I can do it. Like yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. So last week in the 9 to 5s, you ran 16:04, which is it's crazy quick. It's phenomenal. Where do you need to be for the Olympics?
Olympics. So you basically need to run an A standard to qualify for New Zealand, which I think is about 15:04. So like it's a good minute off. I've run faster. My PB's a wee bit faster, but I just think if I can get in the right race after a really good block of training with some good people, I think I could definitely get really close, if not, under that. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, how exciting. All right. Can we go? We'll go all the way back.
Yep.
So you're at intermediate, you're playing badminton, you hate running. How does it start? How do you get into running?
Yeah.
Why did you hate it, first of all? What was your beef with running?
I just remember, like, we used to... I think I ran in intermediate. I was always like really competitive with it. You know, you try to get the house points, and that was always really fun for me. I used to do that with my friends and everything. And I think I qualified for into intermediate school champs or something. And then they'd make you run a loop at lunchtime to train for that. And that was like you'd go outside the school gate and then you'd be running on the concrete. So like that in my head, I'm like, no, that's probably why I didn't like it. And I think it just was, I don't know, just not fun. It wasn't like a sport where you're trying to get points. It just, it's
kind of boring.
Yeah, and a lot of kids don't like running. A lot of people, not even just kids, don't like running, and I totally get that. It's just not for them.
I reckon, I've got a theory about that. I reckon, the school I went to, Palmer's North Boys High, if you forgot your PE gear, as punishment, you just had to run laps of the field in your uniform. So there's almost like and then you're forced to do the school cross country, so people just have like a hatred of running.
Yeah, and I think with that too, you'd always be in your PE gear, which weighed like 10 kgs. So that was never fun.
So when did you discover you were real good? So you go to Taradale High School, and then you smash like the school 3,000 metre record or something by like a minute.
Yeah,
so were you just naturally good?
Yes and no. I between intermediate and high school, I thought I was getting fat. So that was really good to think at the age of 12.
Jeez, that is really unhealthy, eh?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I think just It's probably the same story. Like you see things in magazines, or you hear like, your friends, or like, there's a certain girl at school. You're like, oh, I wish I looked like that because of all the boys, blah, 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 which is really stupid. So yeah, I just ran a loop of my family orchard, basically once a day during that summer between intermediate and high school. I didn't really think too much of it. Like, I just used to go and do that. Me and my siblings and kind of friends and stuff, we were always really active. Like, we'd be out in the orchard for hours on end doing stuff. So, don't know why I thought I needed to do that.
Were you, in hindsight, were you a healthy weight, or were you?
Yeah, I was absolutely fine. Like, I look at photos, I'm like, Laura, there was nothing wrong with you, like, at all. So, yeah, obviously just, like, something got in my head that was the thing. So, yeah, then I got to high school and, again, still competed with house points. And they always held, like, the 3,000 metres, like, at 7 a.m. before school one day. So I was like, I'll go jump into that, get some more points. No one will do that because it's 7 in the morning.
7 a.m. God, now you're doing 9 to 5s, and that's like the opposite end of the day. It's like close to midnight.
Basically my bedtime. So
7 a.m. Why 7 a.m.? That's crazy.
Yeah, I guess it was just the only time it fit because it was like there was like athletics and then swimming and then like there was just so much going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I found out the day after that I broke the school record by a minute, and the sports coordinator at the time, who ended up being my coach, he'd asked if I would come along and train with their small group of athletes. One of them happened to be a girl who went off to the States, who was a bit of an idol for me. And yeah, just kind of, I think, just through that and me being quite competitive and just going to training twice a week, that's when I started to like slowly chip away at things. I think actually Angie Smith maybe it might have been last year, she kind of took a screenshot of results from year 9 and I was like 50 something in the race, and then there was a whole bunch of girls that are still running now that were like top 10. So I was like, you can. Was
this like in the New Zealand secondary schools?
Yeah, New Zealand secondary schools. Yeah. And I was like, wow, okay. Because, I feel like a lot of people kind of give up if they're top 50 and they just don't keep going. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And then eventually how I started doing a wee bit better just by going to training twice a week.
So what sort of times were you doing like back at that age, as a teenager in secondary school?
Oh,
can you remember what your like kilometre time was, or your 5,000 time?
I remember by the time I got to 7th form, I think I ran like 4:29 or for 1,500, and then
wow, were you faster than all the guys at your school? That's a very quick 1,500.
Yeah. I wasn't faster than all the guys. We had a couple of guys on the team, on the small squad that we had. But yeah, I always love beating the guys though. So that's always something I quite enjoy doing. So.
Yeah, I bet.
Yep.
I bet. Oh, I own that. And then you go to the States. Where's Rhode Island?
Yeah, so Rhode Island is 40 minutes or about an hour south of Boston. Gets pretty cold in the winters, but some pretty nice fall kind of summer times. But
how does that come about? You just you get on you have some good performances, so you get on the radar of some of the universities. And did you have any other scholarship offers?
Yeah, so I was like I said, I mentioned that girl before who went over. She went over to a school, loved it, but didn't quite like the coaching kind of environment. So I was like, okay, I don't want to go there, but I want to go. And so I did a lot of research. At the time, there used to be a website called New Zealand or NZ Run. So they had a list that had basically all the schools with all of the New Zealand athletes that were there. And I was looking through and I'd seen Kim Smith at Providence College, reached out to her. I was like, hi, I'm Laura. You probably don't know me. I've done this and I'm really looking at a scholarship to the States. And
this is Kim Smith, the marathon runner,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Absolute legend.
Yeah.
She was like, look, I'm biased. Here's Providence. I'll get in touch with Ray. And from there, it was just, that was it. I did have a couple other schools reach out to me, but I was just pretty sold on everything I'd heard from both Kiwis and then also talking to Ray at the time as a coach. And yeah, that was basically how I went over.
What do you get as part of your scholarship? Do they give you some money, or they pay for your flights, accommodation? What's the deal?
Yeah, so what they do, basically, you find your way over there with your own flights, but from there, your accommodation's taken care of, your food's taken care of, all of your travel to races is taken care of. You get a lot of gear. Not every school's the same with gear, but we were treated really nicely, so it was awesome. Your education's paid for. Basically, I didn't do anything. I basically just had to pay for my flight. So it was kind of like a dream come true. I was like, I basically, once I turned 15 and knew that my friend had gone to the States and loved it, that was my only, like, that's what I'm doing. There's no other option. Sorry, like, that's it. So I actually got injured in year 13 for like about 6 months, and I was like, oh no, my dreams are destroyed. How am I going to do this? Eventually came back, which was cool. And then, so that's kind of Providence, I guess. That's what they end up covering basically everything that you need.
Yeah, that's a sweet deal. And you bloody loved it. You overstayed your welcome. You were there. You were basically a resident. You were there for 6 years.
Yeah.
2 degrees.
The plan was only to go for 4,
Yeah.
as everyone does, because you think, oh, I'm going to come home and whatever. But pretty quickly after about 2 years, I started working in sports info and kind of saw the path that I could also get my grad school paid for by working at school too. So, stayed for 6.
So how old were you when you went over? Like 18?
Yeah, I would have, 18. So turned 18 in February and then would have gone over in August.
Yeah.
Yeah, July, August, yeah.
Were you homesick? It's a long way from home.
No, I was like at the point at 18 where I was like, New Zealand's such a shithole.
I think everyone does that.
Yeah, I'm like, I need to get out of here. This sucks. And then, every summer, because I stayed for a year and a half before I first came home, ended up being taken down to Florida with a friend, which was really, really cool. And then I was like, well, I don't want to go home in winter. So I ended up working on campus that summer. And then, came home eventually after a year and a half. Wasn't homesick, but I think with the 4 weeks leading into coming home for the first time, yes. As I was there longer, I definitely got more homesick. Don't know what it is. I guess it's just as you get older, things priorities
get a bit
change.
weary. Yeah,
and then you realise every time you come home that New Zealand's bloody cool.
Yeah, but it must have been a crazy, eye-opening experience being from the Hawke's Bay and going over there. Like, did it feel like you'd walked into, I don't know, like the set of Clueless or,
Yes.
Mean Girls?
Yes, I'd never really gone much overseas prior to that, and my whole perception of America was the movies. So I was thinking, I'm going to go to Providence, there's going to be like cheerleaders, there's going to be football teams, there's going to be sororities.
Pep rallies.
Yeah, literally all that. It turns out Providence doesn't have a football team. They have basketball, which was awesome, and no sorority life, but there was a kind of similar setup just because of where it was. But it was it's a very, very wealthy school, so you did see a lot of that side of things, which was quite interesting, especially me coming from like little orchard in Hawke's Bay, like walk into the supermarket in my bare feet, like a very different kind of thing. But no, it was amazing, and I loved it so much. Yeah.
You bring up the barefoot thing. That's funny. I feel like that's a New Zealand and Australia thing. Nowhere else in the world is that acceptable.
No, and I don't think I would actually ever do it in America anyway. No.
And how good was the running over there? Did you get over there and you were like hot shit on the team, or were you like suddenly, oh my god, I'm nothing special? I
actually had a kind of nice I guess, eye-opening moment right before I got to Providence, because I went to World Junior Champs, and at the time I thought, oh yeah, I'm so good, like, whatever. And then I get to World Junior Champs, and I barely finished 16th, I think, in the 3K. I was like, wow, I suck. So it was kind of like a really good eye-opener to be like, okay, you're going to be thrown into this school where you're not the best, you're going to be racing against the best, and you just have to work your way up. I did do well-ish my first sort of 6 months. Well, my first race I did anyway, but then I got injured and basically broke my foot because what ended up being reds kind of had turned into a stress fracture, which I didn't really know too much about at the time.
What reds?
Reds, yeah.
What's
so
reds?
Relative energy deficiency, which is basically, it used to be called the female triad, but obviously now it's kind of, they've changed the term because it's not just with females. Okay. It's just we hear a lot more about it with females. So basically kind of the never-ending sort of triangle of not eating enough food for the energy that you're outputting, and therefore that kind of starts to take a toll on your body over time. The longer you leave it, the probably worse it's going to get. You tend to see a lot of bone injuries, and then long-term side effects, which are more and more talked about now, which is really cool, but it's a bummer it wasn't talked about back then or even earlier, because it's probably had some pretty bad effects on a lot of people in the past.
Is that right? How so?
Well, I guess one of the kind of bigger ones is a lot of females end up losing their periods for an extended period of time. Right. When that happens, obviously that's your whole menstrual cycle. Your bone density can decrease from that, and then if you're going to keep going down the track, it can prevent you from being able to have babies, everything like that.
Yeah.
So it's something that a lot of younger girls don't think about. Like, you know, when I was 15, there's no way I was thinking about having kids.
No, it's the last thing.
It's the last thing you're thinking about. But I think, some people end up making a few poor decisions there, not necessarily about any fault of their own. It's just kind of things that have happened, or the way that they start thinking and not fueling themselves properly, that lead to this sort of.
What is the solution? Like, is this because you're training too hard, or is it just like a nutrition based thing?
It can be a combination, but a lot of it tends to be around like not fueling yourself as well.
Okay.
But sometimes, yes, it definitely is training too hard, like especially if your body's not ready for that kind of training. But there are some people that might be training hard and just not fueling enough. Like they might be close, but not quite there. So then their body starts to sort of break down the muscle, and then it has that longer term effect. So, yeah.
If you're at that level, like you want to train as hard as you can, right?
Yep.
So training less is not an option, I guess.
Yeah, and like I think it's not just training too. Like you're trying to live.
How do you mean?
Well, I think a lot of people think, oh yeah, well I'm eating enough for training. I'm like, yes, but you also like, you know, your brain needs that energy to function. Like you're still doing other things other than just running. Like I think there's a lot of people that might kind of forget that sort of element too. Yeah. So yeah, it's a hard thing to get right, but yeah.
So how did your foot break? What happened there?
Yeah, so it was a weird sort of thing that happened. I had finished a cross-country race, and maybe 50 meters before the finish line, I think I remember it felt like I stepped in a hole, and I couldn't walk after that race. And that was my first one of the season. Like, our team had done really well. I'd finished really well individually, and then I couldn't walk. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And then basically for the next 7 to 8 weeks up until regionals, I would go see a guy who would, like, push my bone back into place, and that's what they thought had happened. The day before nationals, which, you know, NCAA is like huge competition, like a lot of things on the line. Day before, I'm in tears. I don't tend to cry a lot. So to have, like, to kind of get to that point, obviously it was quite bad and basically didn't race.
You were in tears because you're in pain? Or
a lot of pain.
Right.
But probably a mix of things. Like I was like, I need to race. Like at the moment, I'm like our number 5 runner in cross country in the States. You add up the top 5 places, and that's basically where you finish. So if that number 5 runner's out, then all of a sudden the next person has to be that. And if they're not quite there, that is a lot of pressure and stress on that person if they didn't think that was their position. So it's hard. Yeah.
Wow. And you've had other injuries as well, like your knee operation a couple of years ago?
Yes.
What other injuries have you had? So you broke your foot.
Yep. I have always had kind of knee issues. That's probably the main ones. I have had a hip thing before that put me out for like 2 weeks, but it's usually my knees. I had this knee injury, basically got it 2018. Would have been about 2020 or 2019. No, 2019, yeah.
What was that, arthritis or something?
Yeah, so I started to get this knee pain, which didn't really make any sense to me. No one could figure out what it was. I had scans, and then my knee was swelling up, like it was like double the size of my other knee, and I was like, what is going on here? Like,
that doesn't sound good.
Like, someone tell me what's happening, and no one could tell me. They eventually told me to go to a rheumatologist, and I was like, what? I'm 25. Like, I don't have arthritis. They said basically I wouldn't be able to run much again, because at that point I was getting sharp pain, which to me in my head was like, that doesn't equate to arthritis for me, like not from what I've heard, and a lot of things just didn't make sense. Like I would go for a run and it would be fine, then the next day I'd attempt it and I'd just get the sharp pain, couldn't run for 3 weeks after that, and it would start to swell up again. It was really confusing and hard, and then basically they were like, oh yeah, you just need to take these pills and probably just not run at all, and it didn't work.
God, that must have been. How do you cope with hearing news like that you might never run again? Like, do you believe it, or are you like, well, screw you, I'm going to prove you wrong?
Yeah, a bit of both. Like at first, I was like, obviously, really upset, because I was like,
yeah, it's who you are.
It's who I am, and also I think, sometimes you go into doctors or these sorts of people that don't quite realise what that actually means to you, and the delivery of the message is pretty shit.
Yeah.
like I'm like, And then I remember going in and him saying that, and then I think I went back maybe 3 weeks later, and I had a list of questions. I'm like, I'm going to throw all these things at you. If you can't answer like X, Y, Z, like you've got something to say for yourself.
Good for you. I wonder how they feel about that, like being sort of challenged. I think they'd appreciate it, right?
Yes and no. I think they definitely wouldn't, because I've thought about this a lot recently, especially with like COVID and like people challenging other people's opinions and then challenging professionals in that area kind of thing. So it's interesting, but to me, I felt fine doing it because no one could give me an answer that made sense.
Yeah.
And until I got that, I wasn't going to completely give up. I mean, I felt like I almost did a little bit, but at the same time, deep down, I was like, no, there's got to be some other answer to that. So I tried like an osteopath who I honestly could not tell you what she did. Like I felt like it was like some weird voodoo kind of thing. But
What, like acupuncture?
no,
or what?
it was like she kind of like held my leg for like 20 minutes. I couldn't feel her doing anything whatsoever, but apparently she was like moving her fingers, and I was like, literally you're doing nothing, but okay, we'll see what happens here. Maybe there's something weird going on that's going to fix me. Not really sure if that did work, but
God, you'd try anything though, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think I would have probably just gone to anyone until someone gave me an answer, which eventually I did. I got a second opinion with another MRI, and he was like, oh, yeah, you've just got a cyst in here and a little microfracture. We can fix that with a keyhole surgery. I was like, what? You're telling me like I could have had this done like a year ago and not be out for 2 years? So, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. God, that doctor that said you might never run again, I wonder if he's aware that you've got the national titles this year for the 1,500, the 3,000 and the 5,000.
Yeah, I've definitely thought about sending a nice email. I just thought I'd leave it there.
Yeah. You must have had time to sort of ponder this or think about this. How would your life look without running? What sort of a void would it leave?
Yeah, I have thought about it, but because I'm back running, I've tried not to too much. It's just more, I'm just really appreciative of the fact that I can run now. I think what is really interesting now is that I had that 2 years off of almost like kind of had given up. I'd kind of, and like this is almost back to those old habits. Like the first thing I thought was like, oh my God, I can't run. I'm going to turn into an elephant. How is this going to work? Like that, like I shouldn't think like that. That's stupid. But I think what it really allowed me to do is realize like, you know, there's more to life than just running, and there's other things I can do. And yeah, I think it was really good for me to kind of sit back and have that time off to be able to do that. But also, like, someone actually said to me, I was on the side of the track I was watching, and I think I was recovering from my surgery, and they're like, oh, well, maybe this will just tack on an extra 2 years to your career. And I was like, I'd actually never thought about that.
That's one way of looking at it, isn't it?
I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. Maybe it will.
Yeah.
And then you start to see stories recently of like 38-year-old, 37-year-old mums like breaking American half marathon and marathon records. And I'm like, you know what? I think maybe this is something that's actually worked out better for me. So
absolutely, yeah. And if you look at the men's equivalent to what you do, Nick Willis, how old's Willis now? What's he? He's still doing sub 4 minute miles.
39.
Yeah, bloody old. It's remarkable what he's done and what he continues to do.
Very, very good. Especially for, what was it? Is it 20 years now he's done that?
Yeah, 20 consecutive years. Yeah. It's amazing.
Really amazing. Wish I could do something like that.
Oh, who knows? Maybe you can.
Maybe. We'll see.
Do you think running was always going to be a part of your life? So even when you're no longer winning national titles and you're no longer setting the world on fire with your time, so you still just do it for fun, for mental health, physical health?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'll always run. I always joked about this with friends who are in the similar kind of age group as me. I think probably 5 years ago we always would have said no way would I ever do masters, and I don't know whether I would still completely compete once I kind of got to like maybe over 40, but I think there's always something there. And for me, like, I'm still involved in sports, so there's kind of like, I guess, the administrative side or like creating things that I would want for myself, but kind of later on down the line, whether that's events or I coach as well with Lydia O'Donnell and the Femi kind of crew. So
Yeah, Lydia's fantastic, hey?
Yes, she's
phenomenal.
amazing.
Her and Esther, they do an amazing job.
Yeah, and like so enthusiastic about the whole thing. It makes it really exciting to be a part of, and yeah, keep on kind of giving back to the sport, which we always had given ourselves.
Yeah. When you're training, what does an average week look like for you?
I'm very like high mileage based, so in the winter, anywhere between kind of 110 to 140. 140 is probably like right up there, but I will likely try and hit a few more of those this winter. That'll be, there'll be a workout or two in there, and a long run. I like to kind of run my long runs hard-ish. So
what's hardish? What sort of pace are we looking at?
I was doing like 2-hour runs, probably averaging somewhere around like 4:10 pace.
Oh my God, that is quick.
So yeah, I mean, there are definitely people that run a lot quicker than that, but at the time that felt pretty fast. And that's kind of starting out a wee bit slower and then cutting down. So
yeah, have you ever tried a half?
yes, they haven't gone that great. I've done like 3.
When you say not great, what do you mean exactly?
I did one. I was supposed to do it as a long run, so I wasn't supposed to actually do it that fast. So it was in Hawke's Bay. I think I ran like 121, so I was pretty happy with that for a long run and kind of holding back. And then I ran Auckland half, might have been 2019. Felt awful on the day. I was still living in Hawke's Bay at the time, and I remember I came up and I stayed at my friend's house in Takapuna, thought I could just like get dropped off at the start line. Apparently all the roads are closed.
It's a real mission getting there.
Yeah, that was a rookie mistake by me, so I ended up running from Takapuna to Devonport for my warm-up, and I was like dead.
What's that, like 4 or 5 kilometres?
I can't remember, but it was too long.
It's a good warm-up.
Yeah, I was only planning on running 10 minutes, so to have to run 25, I was like, not happy about it. And yeah, I think I ran 119 there.
It's quite a hilly one though. The bridge is deceptively hilly, isn't it?
Oh, it is really
It goes on
hilly.
forever.
I remember getting to the top or near the top, and I was like, oh my God, am I feeling faint? Am I going to get like rigor mortis? Oh, I need to slow down. Like, this is not good. So yeah, I did that, and then haven't really run a decent one since, although we did like a squad half marathon over lockdown and ran an unofficial PB. So that was cool to kind of do that off of basically not knowing where you're at all. So yeah, that was good.
what was that unofficial PB?
I think it was like 118... 118.40 or 20-ish, maybe. Yeah, so...
Jeez,
yeah,
that's quick.
Yeah, it was good. Off of doing, like, not a lot of, like, kind of... It was just more tempo-paced work, so... Yeah, so I was pretty happy with that one.
And are you hoping to have a family at some point? Where do you see that fitting in? Like I mean, it's hard and it's unfair because it's something that male athletes don't have to think about.
Yep.
But I suppose you're like, well, do I do it before Paris or do I wait until after Paris?
Yeah, no, it'll definitely be after Paris.
Yeah.
I still feel like I'm 18, so I don't think I'm ready for that yet.
Well, that never changes either.
No, yeah, so that will be, a wee bit after that. Who knows when. Knowing me, I'll probably get hit with like triplets all in one go. So.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah, I always say that to my partner. I'm like, we're probably going to end up with triplets. That's the way it's going to go.
Yeah. How did you guys meet? How long have you been together?
Yeah, we've been together for over 5 years now. I met through a friend in Hawke's Bay over at Deco Weekend. Everyone's dressed in Gatsby, so that was quite funny. He was actually hammered. So, yeah, great first impression. But, yeah, kind of just we did distance for about a year, and then eventually I moved up, and, yeah, it's pretty good.
Amazing. Is he a runner or anything? Or
not at all.
No?
He hates running. He has tried to run with me a few times, and he's actually, if he could train, he'd be a great runner. But that's not really his thing. He plays football, so
right.
He's pretty decent at that too. So that's always fun to watch and kind of have some other sport to kind of, I guess be involved in on the side. So yeah.
Yeah. Is he quite supportive? Comes and watches you at the track? And
yes, although...
if you're not into running, it's a bloody boring thing to watch, is it?
Yes, I think it's been interesting kind of trying to explain to him how running works. And I'll... It's been really funny, actually.
What do you mean explaining how it works?
Well, he's like... What did he say to me when I goes... I think he came down to one of the races we had as a squad meet, and one of the girls in the team kind of arrived a wee bit late. She wasn't racing. She was like, "Oh, what's Laura trying to run?" And he's like, "I have no idea. Like, how long is this race?" So just completely had no idea about the whole thing, which is quite funny. But I've got into the habit of trying to kind of give him, here's my race plan. It might not work, but now that you know, you'll kind of watch this and sort of be able to see how it plays out. And luckily, actually, every single race plan is worked out exactly to a T this season. So he's kind of seen how that happens and why things happen. But I do get questions like, you know, why do you need a pacer? Why can't you just go and run and just do it yourself? Which is actually a pretty valid question, and I actually found that kind of hard to explain. But it is interesting.
How would you explain it? Because it's not, unless there's a headwind, you're not getting the same sort of. It's not like cycling, you know, where it makes a huge tangible difference if you're sitting on someone's wheel. Does it just take the thinking out of it for you that you can just like sit on someone's?
Yeah, I think definitely taking the thinking out, but also what I've actually found, and it's actually helped me explain it a wee bit more, is I've had a couple girls pace through 800 for the 1500 recently, and I feel more relaxed. I'm like, okay, cool. What you just do is sit, run like them, and just try stay as calm as you can until it's then your turn to like really go for it. So,
and what's the story with the pacer? Like, if you're a pacer, do you have to pull out, or if you're feeling really good, can you?
Yeah,
you can keep going.
No, you can keep going. Yeah, you can definitely keep going, and like obviously us who are being paced, we want you to go for as long as you can. But usually you'll pull out at the distance that you're meant to go to, or you know, if you're really off the pace, they might jump out because they don't want to kind of screw the race up for you. Or if you're feeling really, really good, just keep going.
Yeah, right.
There's definitely been times where pacers have tried to just keep it going and they actually finish the race. I did that about a year or so ago for a group of girls, and that is a nasty way to finish a race. But yeah, it's pretty fun. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got to the end of the New Zealand track season now, and you're unbeaten, and you've got all the national titles and everything. So how long do you have? What does a break look like for you now?
A break. So I haven't run for the last 4 days, but then did my first kind of like 20-minute jog today, and then I'll just kind of run every second day for at least the rest of this week, maybe another week, depending on how I'm feeling. But it's one of those things where you get to the end of the season, you're ready for a break, but you're also so ready to get back into training and mileage and everything.
Yeah.
Like in the winter, obviously, was doing quite a lot of miles. And then as it got to track season, it was a little bit less. And I was like, oh, man, I want to do more. But I know it's kind of silly to do that. So, yeah, you don't take a full few weeks off. So, yeah, just kind of slowly get back into it again, but without losing too much fitness. Otherwise, that can really hurt.
Yeah. What are you like before a race? Are you a pain in the ass to be around for a couple of days, or are you quite zen about the whole thing? I mean, there's been a lot of pressure on you this year, I guess, of all years.
Yeah, I try and be pretty relaxed and pretty, like, try not to be too serious because it just kind of takes the fun out of it. Although this year I've been quite nervous before a lot of races, which is unusual for me.
Is that because you've been, like, red-hot favourite for all of them?
No, it's probably more...
It's a lot of pressure.
Not pressure. It's probably more just the whole, like, I know it's weird. I keep saying all season long that I felt like a phony, but I was running these 1,500 races that I just never felt like that was my event. Maybe it's just because I've, for so long, had never really done them, and I think that's probably why. Like, you never knew if the race plan was going to go right. It's only 3 3/4 laps. Like, you don't really have a lot of time to just, like, rethink things or change something up, and once you go, you basically have to go. Like, you can't, it's really hard to do like a second surge or anything. So just, yeah, I guess I just hadn't really had that confidence in myself over the distances that I was running.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's all worked out remarkably well, hasn't it?
Yeah. Pretty happy. I mean, it couldn't really have gone too much better.
And how's your mental health been? I mean, there's been a lot of chat about that recently. I mean, there was the sad death last year of Olivia Podmore of cycling, and women's tennis. There's been a lot of focus on that, and gymnastics at the Olympics.
Yep.
It's a lot of pressure at this level.
I actually had a thought about this a wee while ago. I think it might have been just after Sir Graham Douglas meet. Obviously, the level I'm at is still relatively low compared to, like, world stage.
Yeah, domestic, but still.
I guess when you're getting a lot of people coming at you constantly, and I'm not great at staying off my phone, so obviously you do scroll a lot. It's really hard. So, and I just remember being like, I think I was talking to one of the girls on the team actually, and I was like, I just feel like it's a lot right now, and I just need to, like, throw my phone away. And yeah, that was probably the one time where I was like, okay, now I kind of understand what people say when it gets a bit too much. Like, sometimes it is hard to understand until you've actually seen it yourself or been a part of something that is where that happens. So, yeah, I mean, I've been pretty good, been pretty good, but that was just kind of one sort of element where I was like, wow, okay, this is not really that high of a level, but still it can be hard because you're managing yourself basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And you want the best for yourself. What was it on your phone? Was it articles about yourself or was it comments? What was it?
Oh, no. Well, I mean, I guess I do a lot of things. I'm notorious for probably not saying no. Like, obviously I have a job, I'm coaching, I have like friends, but you're also trying to promote yourself too at the same time. Because at the end of the day, you've got to pay your bills. So at some point, like, I'd love to be able to go and run full time for whatever that looks like. And I guess you're trying to put yourself out there as best you can, but without, it's really hard to explain. You're trying to self-promote without doing too much. And that's been something that we've tried to work with our group too, just to try and build that and really create a cool women's community of runners. It's just a lot sometimes.
You got to learn how to say. It's hard though. Like you want to say no, and you know you should, but then you don't want to miss out on opportunities, do you?
Exactly, and that's like, you have really big time athletes and stuff. They have managers for that, and they just take care of all that kind of stuff. But when you're at that lower level, it's just kind of hustle. Just keep going.
It's hustling for scraps. Have you got some good sponsors or?
Yeah, we have some really good supporters with our group, and then I also Shoe Science via New Balance. New Balance has been a kind of big one for me over the years. Just kind of helping out with gear, which goes a long way, especially when I'm running as much as I am and, have to throw away a pair of shoes every 8 weeks kind of thing. So, so they've been really awesome. And we have a few that are around our group too, which definitely helps when you're, just little bits here and there. So,
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited to see what is next for you. Hopefully that Olympic dream comes. God, wouldn't that be something special? Making it to the Olympic bloody games.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That'd be unbelievable. And hopefully the world's completely back to normal then, so you can get the full Olympic experience. And
yeah, definitely. That would be pretty cool. I think Tokyo sounded like it was really hard on a lot of athletes.
Challenging.
And very not quite the experience they would have thought, but at the same time, it's the Olympics. Obviously, you do what you've got to do to get there. So I think Paris will be amazing after the last few years.
Yeah, 100%. Hey, we'll just end with some quick fire questions.
I love those.
What do you like to listen to when you run? Or do you listen to, say you're going out for that 2-hour long run on your own?
Yep.
Do you have music on or
yes.
podcasts? Or?
Yeah, no, I've got music on, and I have a range of everything. My partner's pretty big into music, so he'll flick through a whole bunch of stuff. But I've got a whole list of random songs, random genres that I feel like each song kind of has like a different sort of thing that is in my memory. Sometimes I'm like running and I'm listening to it fully. Other times that beat has like made me imagine like I'm running in the Olympics or something. Then all of a sudden I drop a really quick K and I'm like, settle down, Laura.
Calm down. God, I need to get you a playlist. If it's going to get me running 4-minute 10Ks, I'm all for it. What's your favourite place to run?
Oh, Hawke's Bay,
Really?
home. Yeah, I really like it there. I know so many loops. I just really like running in Hawke's Bay. Yeah.
Yeah. Favourite shoe? Oh, New Balance.
New Balance, yeah. I actually really like the 1080s. I've had Achilles issues recently, and they've got a nice little soft back that doesn't quite push on that part. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you prefer to run alone or with a crew?
Definitely with a crew. We've got a really great group of girls. Yeah, there are times where I definitely like to run by myself and just kind of zone out. But I just find when you can run with a good group of people and get a great convo going,
Helps pass the Ks, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you prefer summer or winter for running?
Summer, 100%.
Really?
Yes.
But you live in Auckland now. It's awful here in summer. It's so humid.
No, I just like the heat. I'm such a summer person. Like, that's me to a T. I will be at the beach any chance I can get. So, yeah, summer.
Right. What's the worst injury you've had?
Nah, the knee, just because it took so long to figure out. And, knees are so hard. There's always something going on with the knees.
People assume that just because you're running, you are going to end up with fucked knees. But I say to them, no, I don't think that's necessarily the case.
No, I don't think so either. I think if you can get your strength and all that stuff right, you can do it fine. It's just making sure and being really aware of your body and knowing when things are off. And I mean, I have a good group of people around me. Like, I go see a chiropractor and a sports masseuse, or the whole, the list of things. But just to kind of keep me align. But I'm running so much that yes, those injuries will pop up because of just the
overuse.
It just happens. So
Yeah. Runner's high, is that real or a myth?
Oh, definitely real.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it is for you because you're always bloody winning.
Not quite, but
Yeah.
no,
So do you think it'll always be part of your life? Like even if it's just getting out for 10K at a slow pace?
Yes, definitely. Like, who knows? We always kind of joke about like being like the old ladies, like, oh, I remember back in my day, I used to run these kind of things, and like doing really slow laps around the track. But
still doing it, eh? Still doing it. It's so good. Hey, lovely to meet you.
You too.
Thanks for coming over, and best of luck for everything. I mean, it's been just a phenomenal year. It's incredible.
Cool. Thanks.
Oh, you made it to the end. Thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed that. Laura Nagel, big things coming from her, and she still has a lot of work to do to make it to the Olympics in a couple of years, but if anyone can, I'd put money on her. Thank you very much to Triumph and Disaster for sponsoring this episode of Runners Only with Dom Harvey. Love having you guys on board, and thank you very much for listening. Really, really appreciate all the kind comments on Instagram. By the way, you can DM me, Dom Harvey NZ. That's my Instagram name, or message me, domharveynz@gmail.com. All the input, all the feedback is really, really appreciated, and I love having you guys on board. Thanks very much. See you next week.